If you are a coach, a visionary, or a creative leader, you don't get paid for your ideas, your time, or even your credentials. At least not for long. Early in a career, those things matter. Skills matter. Training matters. Output matters. You are paid for what you can do, what you can execute, or what you can demonstrate. But as you move into more complex arenas of expertise, creative leadership, strategic decision-making, or high trust, high contact advisory work, the currency begins to shift. And it's easy to miss when that shift happens, because at entry levels, we are paid for information. We're paid for our labor hours or technical proficiency. And there's nothing wrong with that. It is necessary. But craft in that case precedes influence. You can't chase influence before that. But as environments become more complex, something shifts. Everyone in the room at some point is competent. Everyone has ideas. Everyone is credentialed. And so in those rooms, ideas are cheap. What becomes scarce is coherence. And this is where the economic frame will start to shift. In complex systems, environments where multiple intelligent people must coordinate without a script or a roadmap, you are paid for your presence, for the degree to which your nervous system can organize in volatility or creative unknown, both for yourself and with others. All right, before we go further, it would be highly valuable for you to know how your personal nervous system organizes in complex dynamics. We all fall into one of 4 patterns. This isn't personality, it's embodiment. You might be the warrior, the sage, the shapeshifter, or the asset. And this determines how you will orient towards creativity, towards force, adaptation, analysis, and leadership. So pause this video, go down to the description, and take our 2-minute Somatic Skins Quiz. It'll help to have yours in hand so that everything I share next will land more personally for you. Because leadership, creativity, and even value is filtered through your skin. So take it and then come back. A complex context of created value is not abstract. It's any environment where outcomes depend on more than one person. Emotion influences decision making, and the path forward is not predetermined. The stakes are real. This could look like a film set, a startup navigating a pivot, a negotiation between opposing parties, an orchestra in mid-performance preparation, in organization and cultural transition. These are systems composed of humans joining together toward an end. These are systems, environments composed of humans joining together towards an end. And so it is the co-created dynamic of the nervous systems of the leader and the participants, almost like it forms its own energetic system. This energetic system synchronizes to the person or the people who are the most coherent. You can see this dynamic in certain public figures whose influence extends beyond just their technical skill. The value that they bring and really what they are hired for is not just about what they know. For example, one of the outliers is Rick Rubin. He is not hired because he can outcompose the artist in the room. The artist already has ideas. What he provides is a particular creative field in which experimentation and coherence can survive. He can sit inside creative uncertainty without rushing it or collapsing it, to find the thread of expression. Artists will say that they feel clearer in his presence. Their signal sharpens. Something about his way of being brings out their best. And that is not just personality. It is a specific calibration of presence, in this case applied to art. Or consider Satya Nadella. He did not transform Microsoft through superior coding ability. The company had world-class engineers. What shifted was orientation and dynamics, what we would call soft skills. What was rewarded, what was emphasized, how disagreement was held. Cultural tone changed. Psychological safety increased, and so innovation accelerated. A regulated system at the top reorganized the field beneath it. Or Nelson Mandela. He did not enter negotiations with more information than his opponents. I imagine, looking from the outside in, he might have entered without revenge held in his body. That steadiness altered the emotional physics of the room. In a moment where escalation was really possible, probable even, he embodied range instead of retaliation. That is nervous system integration influencing national outcome. In each of these cases, the value created by that individual or that leader was not an idea. It was observable. The impact was in their ability to hold complexity coherently without fragmentation. And that's not just something that some special people can do. That ability is developmental. Under uncertainty, untrained or strained human nervous systems destabilize themselves and the environment. Attention narrows, breath accelerates, people overcorrect, nuance is overlooked. And this is where your skin patterns, the embodiment of your nervous system, becomes visible. Because when pressure rises, the warrior pushes harder, sometimes beyond what the moment requires. The shapeshifter bends and might even leave or deviate, sometimes past the point of integrity or wholeness. The sage will retreat into analysis, maybe even delaying necessary decisive movement. The asset will absorb the emotional charge of the room, and they'll carry it alone and be flooded, unable to find the truth in the signal that could have shifted the dynamic for everyone. None of these are flaws. They are survival intelligences. But when they dominate and they're left unconscious, coordination suffers. At scale, that can cost decisive speed, trust, creative clarity, or cultural cohesion. Integration and targeted training increase range across these patterns. An integrated warrior can act decisively without crushing nuance. An integrated shapeshifter can adapt without erasing core structure. An integrated sage can analyze without detaching from reality or from relational dynamics. An integrated asset can feel deeply without drowning in sensation. What people experience as leadership presence is often just fluid access across these states of being. That kind of fluidity is not mystical in this context. It is trained through structure, through attention, and through breath. Structure will determine whether force reroutes cleanly or fractures the system. Attention determines what crystallizes or what is absorbed as signal. Breath determines whether activation escalates or stabilizes. Over time, training shortens the activation and recovery cycle. Disruption will still happen and tension still arises. But the lag between disturbance and coherence decreases, and that reduction in lag changes outcomes. This is where the economic frame, where we started, what you're paid for, becomes concrete. If you are a particular kind of leader whose level of presence, perspective, consciousness, or energy is what people come to you for, in addition to whatever skill set you bring, you are not paid for calm. Calm is fragile. You are paid for your access to usable range. Can you remain organized and open while speaking under disagreement? Can you absorb challenge and hold and direct force without narrowing your perception? Can you detect deterioration in a room before it becomes conflict and know how to shift it? Can you adjust without overcorrecting? Can you hold risk and volatility without transmitting panic? In creative environments at the edge of what has never been done before, novel territory generates anxiety in the system. Anxiety amplifies default patterns. Default patterns reduce our range. Reduced range limits innovation. Integrated leadership expands bandwidth for better innovation. More ideas, better ideas can survive friction. More disagreement can be metabolized. More risk can be taken without collapse. This is not inspirational language. It is a trained coordination of capacity. We go deeper into this architecture in our books, The Somatic Skins and Becoming the Grand Formidable. You can find those links to those books below in the description. In them, we map how patterning under load forms early, how regulation becomes embodied, and how training increases range measurably. But even without theory, you can start to observe this in your own life. What does it look like when you fragment your attention and energy, when things feel complex? Where do you consistently overexert? Where do you disappear? When do you over-intellectualize or distance yourself from an awkward difference? These aren't just personality quirks to talk yourself out of. They are patterned nervous system responses. And as environments become more complex, or you have a vision that requires a bigger version of yourself, this matters. The cost of these patterns will increase. Remember, at certain levels, your technical skill got you into the room. What happens once you are there at high levels is determined by your level of integration of mind and body. This could apply to so many contexts, but I might name a few. Creative directors shaping collaborative work, founders navigating volatility, negotiators holding opposing interests, coaches and consultants serving the highest interest and development of their clients, cultural leaders stewarding transitions, high trust advisors sitting inside consequential decisions. In these arenas, you are not merely producing output, you are organizing humans, and humans synchronize. The most coherent system becomes the reference point. That is not dominance, it is entrainment. It's how we're wired. So I'll bring this back to recap. At early stages, you might be paid for simple execution. At advanced stages, you are paid for your embodied coordination. The skins will help explain how fragmentation and coherence occurs. The regulators within that book provide the levels for integration. Integration increases coordination capacity. Coordination capacity increases or deepens outcomes. Coordination in complex human environments and systems depends on nervous system stability and range. This doesn't mean that you're paid for your energy like a mystical vibe, no. But that at the highest levels of human transformation or collaboration, your embodied coherence becomes part of the infrastructure and therefore the impact. If this approach resonates and you are up to meaningful things in your life, know that you can go deeper with us. The Skins Quiz will give you a starting place, but if you want to train this, not as a concept but a lived capacity, join us for a season inside the Prestige. This is where the work that I'm talking about here moves from theory into practice in your domain. under relational complexity or force multipliers for creativity, with real feedback in our signature events as simulators and direct support. If you have made it this far in the video, thank you so much for being here. It means a lot. Please do like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.